Upon booting up The Last of Us and hearing that haunting main menu theme, I knew my decision to revisit this title in anticipation of Part 2 was the right choice, despite the fact that I knew this game's many intense emotional gut punches would be just as profound as they were in 2013. After starting up a new save file, it doesn't take long to reach the first of these sorts of moments. Before that, though, we're introduced to a loving father named Joel and his pride and joy, his daughter, Sarah. Through just a short cutscene, we can already infer that Joel is a single parent and that his daughter is the driving force of his life. He cares for her like any father should. We get just a small snippet of what normal looks like for this family of two before all hell breaks loose. It's an apocalyptic event taking form in a fungal outbreak that causes infected humans to become zombie-like creatures devoid of their humanity and existing only to spread the disease by ripping other humans limb from limb. In the panicked moments leading up to the outbreak, Joel and Sarah are forced to flee their home alongside of Joel's brother Tommy. As I ran through this linear scripted path, I was reminded of how well this game does its cinematics, but at the same time I was crushed, knowing what the end of this path would bring. Even though I knew Sarah's death was unavoidable, it still tugs at the heartstrings.
Oh no. Sarah! Move your hands, babe. I know, baby, I know.
Her terrified gasp for breath and life destroy any emotional composure you may have, and Joel's denial of her death breaks your heart. The introduction to The Last of Us makes it clear. This isn't a game about good feelings. It's a game about loss and how we deal with it, or in some cases, how we fail to deal with it. This opening section sets the standard for what's to come. It will be a series of events that we will see repeat itself a few times throughout the game. These few fleeting moments of happiness and joy that are cut short by an unwavering barrage of sorrow, fury, destruction, and pain. We leap forward 20 years into the future to find an older Joel, a man who's clearly seen his fair share of shit at this point in his life. His partner Tess enters their room and reveals a businessman named Robert has screwed them over out of a shipment of guns, and she's out for revenge. This happens after she displays a new assortment of food rations that she's secured for her and Joel. And venturing outside, we see why the duo is in need of those food stamps. Even 20 years after the outbreak, society is still in ruins, and only small pockets of civilization exist under complete rule of martial law. If the patrolling guards weren't intimidating enough, the player bears witness to an execution where civilians are killed instantly at the first sight of infection. There's no room for morality in this world. It's eat or be eaten, and Joel and Tess know that all too well. The duo are smugglers or runners for surrounding towns, and they do this in order to help them accrue resources and supplies. And after an attack from a counter-resistance called the Fireflies, Joel and Tess reach Robert's location through some underground tunnels. After capturing the slimeball Robert, it's revealed that Marlene, the leader of the Fireflies, has the guns that our duo needs, and she has a job for them: escort a young woman named Ellie outside of the city limits so that she can be transported to a new location for safekeeping.
Just take her to the North Tunnel and wait for me there.
Jesus Christ.
Just cargo, Joel.
Marlene.
No more talking. You'll be fine. Now go with him.
Don't take long. And you, stay close.
Following this encounter, we get our first snippet of interaction between Joel and Ellie, a duo that will become inseparable as the game progresses, but for now, they're complete strangers. Joel is cold and reserved, doing everything he can to view Ellie as just another job, and as a piece of cargo. She shows signs of spunk and bravery, but Joel is none too interested to get to know her very well. They find a place to hold up until nighttime, and Ellie notices that Joel's watch is broken. If you hadn't noticed it before, it's clearly the same watch his daughter gave him on that dreaded night all those years ago. The man holds onto it as a broken keepsake, anchoring him to the past and tying him to a broken moment that every parent would dread and carry with them forever. Joel nods off but awakes from a bad dream. The subtlety of the writing and the reference to the watch makes it clear that Joel was dreaming of Sarah, and most likely about the traumatic night. It's a brilliant moment that's easily missed, but remains clear as day for the watchful player. With the arrival of Tess, the crew is ready to head for the Capitol building to drop off Ellie and complete the job, but those plans go awry when the trio is captured by soldiers. It's here where the driving realization of the plot unfolds. Ellie is revealed to be immune to the cordyceps virus, perhaps the only known person to be so.
I'm not infected.
No? Was just lying?
I can explain.
You better explain fast.
Look at this.
I don't care how you got infected.
It's 3 weeks old.
No, everyone turns within 2 days, so you stop bullshitting.
It's 3 weeks. I swear. And whatever happened to me is the key to finding a vaccine.
Oh, Jesus.
It's what she said.
Oh, I'm sure she did.
Hey, fuck you, man. I didn't ask for this.
Me neither. Tess, what the hell are we doing here?
What if it's true?
I can't...
What if, Joel? I mean, we've come this far. Let's just finish it.
Do I need to remind you what is out there?
I get it.
It's fantastic that Joel and Tess take opposite approaches in their reactions to this news. Joel is skeptical, he's clearly jaded by what society has become, while Tess is hopeful that maybe getting this girl where she needs to go will end up saving humanity. These diametrically opposed views are cut short though with the arrival of new soldiers and eventually the infected. In 2013, this level design was pretty damn good, and environments felt natural, but playing in 2020, it's clear to see the developer's hand at work. There's very distinct sections for exploration, and they're divided up by arenas where the player must stealth or kill their way through to the endpoint. The exploration sections hold up best, but the arenas are starting to feel quite obvious. Each combat section is filled with displays or furniture and other miscellaneous objects that provide ample amounts of cover, more so than you'd expect to find. This is something that I hope Part 2 will be better at, making both exploration and combat arenas as seamless as possible, and if there's any studio to do that, it's Naughty Dog. We eventually reach a rooftop where Joel helps Tess and Ellie cross to another building. There's a beautiful vista where the Capitol building's dome shines in the sunrise, and Joel's demeanor momentarily lapses in a small moment with the young girl. And a glance at his watch gives it away that Joel is thinking of Sarah in this moment. He let his guard down for a minute, but it's about to come back in spades. Arriving at the Capitol building brings a new huge revelation. Tess has been bitten and her infection is spreading quickly. Joel has no choice but to begrudgingly accept the reality that Ellie is immune, while at the same time he's being forced to say goodbye to a woman who's been his working partner for years. That bond between Tess and Joel is what ties Joel to Ellie at first. His hand is forced by Tess's dying wish for him to see this through to the end, a request he has no choice but to adhere to. After fighting our way through a room that's as filled with soldiers as it is with perfectly lined up cover bits, we reach the subway systems where perhaps the most annoying thing about Ellie is revealed. She can't swim. I really don't like these bits where you have to get Ellie across some water on a plank. It's an issue that will come up throughout the game, and it's never so frustrating that you get pissed off, but the issue is that it just doesn't add much to the experience. I don't know why it's here. We're able to get through the sunken train tunnels, and reaching sunlight again, we get another exchange between Joel and Ellie.
Hey, look, about Tess. I don't even know what
Here's how this thing's gonna play out. You don't bring up Tess. Ever. Matter of fact, we just keep our histories to ourselves. Secondly, don't tell anybody about your condition. They think you're crazy, they'll try to kill you. And lastly, you do what I say, when I say it.
Ellie feels guilty over the death of Tess, but Joel's ironclad emotional barrier is instantly triggered as he warns the young girl to never mention her again. It's a hint that Joel is a man who hides his pain, revealing it to no one and trying to remain stoic, but his bitter perspective on the world is all the evidence you need that this is a man who's dealt with tremendous amounts of loss. The death of Tess is another notch on his hurting heart, and he will do his best to avoid getting close with Ellie. Perhaps Tess's words to keep his focus while they were on that rooftop resonated with Joel and put his emotion on full alert. And this attempt at emotional isolation for Joel is important to establish here, so that we really feel how monumental it is for these two to become closer as the game progresses. Escaping the city, we arrive in a northern town where only one man still resides. His name is Bill, and he's the key to getting a car to drive west in. Throughout Bill's turf, we run into a lot of infected, including runners, clickers, and boomers. The zombie design of this game is pretty creative, especially the fact that they made the outbreak a result of a mutagen of a fungal infection that already exists in our real world. Cordyceps is the culprit to blame, but luckily it can't have the kind of impact it has on humans as it does in the game. The designs of these feral humans are well inspired. The runners are your standard zombies, they're fast, they're aggressive, and they're deadly in bunches. But the clickers are the game's best offering to the zombie genre. Their heads are completely consumed by fungus, and so they can't really see anything. They've adapted though, and they use sonar to track prey. This is signaled by the clicking noise that they make, which is creepy and terrifying at the same time. If they get a hold of you, it is game over, unless you've built yourself a shiv. The clickers aren't the most common infected, but they're consistently the biggest pain in the asses, making their presence the best in the game. And then there's the boomers, who are supposed to be boss-type encounters against heavily armored foes that eat up a lot of damage. But the main issue with them is that they are underutilized throughout the game. More of them would have been appreciated, and it's exciting to think what Naughty Dog will come up with in terms of new zombie types in Part 2. Anyway, getting back to this environment, Bill gives us a look at what Joel could have become if he had remained in isolation instead of linking up with others in the years following the outbreak. Bill has a history with Joel, but prioritizes his safety more than anything else, to an extreme level. He doesn't hesitate to throw Joel to the ground and handcuff Ellie to make sure they aren't infected. In this world, social taboos do not exist. Even so, it's clear Bill has fetishized the protection of his own town to an insane degree. He's set up hundreds of traps across the town, and he's designed barricades to control the flow of traffic. This obsession of his most likely kicked into overdrive after a partner of his broke things off with him. We later find out that this man was Bill's lover, and that he killed himself after becoming infected, wishing nothing but pain for Bill in a note written to our estranged guide. Bill relishes in isolation and turns away any sort of human connection. He has forsaken one of the key parts of his humanity, and it's hard to blame him for doing so in this apocalyptic hellscape. Either way, he provides us with the car we need, and Joel and Ellie are able to skip town for Pittsburgh. And in this cutscene, we get to see a bit of a connection being formed between the two. The boredom of driving across multiple states allows for Joel to let his guard down just a little bit, as he's humored by Ellie's reaction to music, comics, and pornographic magazines. Again, the writing is just so damn good. These moments are critical for the development between these two, yet it doesn't feel like that in the moment. It's just another one of those small, pure moments. But just like all the others, it's fleeting as the duo reaches the city and is ambushed by more humans. Combat with humans is similar to that of zombies, but the point of difference is that the humans are coordinated, tactical, and they use weaponry, while the zombies will attempt to overpower you with force and numbers. Human enemies will split up patrols while searching through buildings and will actively flank you if given the chance during combat. It can make for some pretty challenging combat, even on the easier difficulties, because of this, and that's appreciated. Still, these hectic and frantic sections feel somewhat detached from the rest of the experience. The reason for that is that the rest of the game is either cutscenes that make up the story, or exploration sections where story details are sprinkled in to expand the world and build on the characters. Both the cutscenes and the exploration are about expanding the narrative, but the combat sections don't really tie into that, making them feel very separate from the overall experience. It's not unfair to describe this game as cutscene, combat, instead of just being one flowing narrative. The game almost begs to be a movie, but realizes at the end of the day, it is a game and it has to include these sections, but it does take away from the cohesiveness of the entire package. And from what I've played, this seems to be an issue with the Uncharted series too. I'm not sure how this dissonance can be alleviated if Naughty Dog continues to tell stories in this manner, but to be honest, I don't care that much, so long as the narrative continues to be this good. The first half of moving through the city really gives us a demonstration of how violent some factions of humanity have become during the outbreak, thriving on a survival of the fittest mentality. The mobsters of this turf are brutal and kill without giving it a second thought, as is evidenced in this cutscene. A woman is killed viciously and searched for valuables. Her sneakers are said to be too worn down, and she has nothing in her pockets, leaving her murderers irritated, but not much more. The indiscriminatory killing of people is just second nature to these folks now, and the woman is just left here to die and rot. Naughty Dog didn't shy away from putting the violence right up in your face, whether it's in cutscenes like this or in the overall combat, particularly the finishing animations where Joel slams a dude's face into the wall, caving in their entire head. The brutality of it all even gets a reaction from Ellie sometimes. She can tell that Joel has killed before, and that his morality may not be too far off of the men he's killing. Her brief pauses for concern remind the player that while we've seen these men do terrible things, Joel has done a lot of these same actions. We just haven't seen it necessarily. He isn't a good man simply because we are controlling him. He's done plenty of immoral and violent acts in this new world in order to survive. The viciousness of these city dwellers is matched by that of Joel. It's in these moments where our duo faces their first internal strife. For hours now, Ellie has been hinting that she would like to carry a gun for her own protection, but Joel has remained adamant that she shouldn't. This is until the young girl saves him from certain death, and her reaction to her first kill is about right for a 14-year-old.
Man, I shot the hell out of that guy, huh?
Yeah, you sure did.
I feel sick.
Why didn't you just hang back like I told you to?
Well, you're glad I didn't, right?
I'm glad I didn't get my head blown off by a goddamn kid.
You know what? No. How about, hey, Ellie, I know it wasn't easy, but it was either him or me. Thanks for saving my ass. You got anything like that for me, Joel?
We gotta get going.
Lead the way.
Joel scolds her for killing the man, and it comes off as pretty illogical to Ellie, but we as the player can tell it's a result of him not wanting to see another young girl die. He clearly feels responsible and guilty for Sarah's death, and couldn't bear seeing the same happen to Ellie, not to mention he would be letting down Tess as well. But his manly, uncaring facade leaves him to scold Ellie, but it doesn't last for long as he soon apologizes and puts his fate into her hands by asking her to cover him as he takes out a plaza of mercs. Joel shows a great amount of trust for Ellie by handing her a rifle, and after having a few moments to cool down, he realizes what the right thing to do is. After clearing the plaza, he entrusts her with her very own pistol. So far, we've only ever seen the banter from these two at best, but now they are showing a greater appreciation and trust for one another. Their relationship couldn't have grown into what it becomes if not for this moment, where a greater conviction in one another is established. Venturing further into the city, we meet Henry and Sam, two brothers looking to escape the city and link up with the Fireflies. Out of all the characters we meet in The Last of Us, outside of our main duo, Henry and Sam are my personal favorites, and that's because they epitomize the cruelty of this world so perfectly. Henry is an ultra-protective older brother who sometimes lets his defense mechanisms overpower his caring side, and we can tell it leaves Sam feeling kind of detached from his older brother.
It's been hounding us ever since we got in this damn... Sam, what are you doing?
Nothing.
Get rid of it.
My backpack is practically empty.
What's the rule about taking stuff?
It weighs like
The
nothing.
rule. What is it?
We only take what we have to.
That's right. Now come on.
Now, it's clear that Henry does care for Sam, as is evidenced by how he pleads with Joel to take care of him when they're separated in the sewers. But it never comes through in a way that allows Sam to truly feel cared for. As an outside observer, it's easy to understand both Henry and Sam's perspectives, as any slip-up may cost them their lives, and Henry understands this and acts accordingly, but it does lead to a disconnect between the two. So much so that Henry says it's the first time he's seen Sam smile in a long time when he's playing with Ellie. Sam is just excited to meet someone his own age and be free of the social tension that was ever present with his older brother. Like many in the game, it's a relationship that is not spelled out for us, but is instead portrayed through well-crafted dialogue. After escaping Ish's Tunnel's Civilization Gone Wrong, a great section of the game by the way, we reach a neighborhood where more of the city goons wait to ambush us. Joel must reach a sniper's outlook and take out the assailant before protecting Ellie, Sam, and Henry from oncoming bad guys and infected. But no matter how well you handle the sniper, you won't be able to stop Henry and Sam from getting tackled by the infected, which is the moment that triggers their downfall. Escaping to the abandoned radio tower, the group shares a meal and exchanges stories. Henry is shown enjoying interacting with another adult in the same way that Sam had earlier with Ellie. Sam isolates himself and Ellie goes to check on him, leading to one of the most philosophical conversations of the game. Sam asks Ellie what she's scared of, and after seeing the young boy reject her surface-level answer of scorpions, she goes on to say that she's scared of ending up alone. Like many other moments, it's a subtle reference to the Left Behind DLC that takes place before the events of the main game. Anyway, Sam states his fear of the infected, more specifically that he doesn't know what happens to their humanity upon turning. Are they still human, just unable to control their bodies, or have they cognitively died, succumbing completely to the parasitic fungi? Henry had told Sam that the people in those shells were long gone, reunited with friends and family in heaven, but the children ultimately reject this mindset. Even if they wish it were true, they can't believe in the logic of it. Ellie tries to cheer Sam up by leaving a toy for him, a toy that the young man wanted earlier, but that Henry told him he couldn't have. But things have changed for Sam. He throws down the toy in frustration and reveals an infected bite on his leg. He seems almost angry at himself for being caught up earlier by a stupid toy, when now his very existence hangs in the balance. From there, we cut to the morning, where a relaxed trio enjoys breakfast. Ellie goes back to check on Sam, but the boy has turned infected. For a brief second, we all kind of hoped that Sam would be like Ellie, and turn out to be immune, but this visual of his shaking body confirms the worst. Sam lunges for Ellie, and Joel is quick to go for a gun, but Henry denies him the kill. Henry is struck with panic. He debates for a moment on what to do, but quickly kills Sam before turning the gun on Joel. Henry does end up taking his own life though. He's unable to bear the grief of having failed his mission to protect his younger brother at all costs, and he chooses death over a lifelong feeling of guilt. It's through this action that we can see just how much Henry cared for Sam. He can't bear to live without him, and I think he understood that trying to carry on would force him to confront his treatment of Sam, and he couldn't bear it. In the end, sharing a few laughs over some breakfast is yet another small moment of humanity being cut short by tragedy, all tying back to that looping of events that I referenced at the beginning of this video. We jump forward to the fall season. Every season within The Last of Us ends in a traumatic event, and we don't really get to see the fallout of what happened immediately after. We're only left to infer. We reach what I believe is either Wyoming or Colorado, and Joel and Ellie discover a hydroelectric plant. There's a tiny grave nearby, and Joel makes his avoidance policy clear once again as Ellie begs him to talk about what happened with Henry and Sam.
How many times do we need to go over this? Things happen, and we move on.
It's just...
That's enough.
You're right. I'm sorry.
Let's get to Tommy's.
He doesn't like talking about his emotion, and he always puts it off until later whenever possible. These small, missable snippets give more development to the relationship between these two, and I'm glad they were incorporated into the game. Naughty Dog spoke of how they wanted the gameplay to be a part of the story, and these interactions give credence to that notion. Reaching the interior of the dam, Joel is shocked to find his brother Tommy, who we briefly met at the beginning of the game. Tommy has abandoned the Fireflies and has set up a community alongside his wife Marie, and their goal is to get electricity back to the plant to make a nice place to live. In a turn of event that seems a little shocking to the player, Joel asks Tommy to take Ellie to the Fireflies and finish his mission for him. It's evidence that Joel is scared of how close he is becoming to Ellie, and his past makes him hesitant towards getting any closer to children. Tommy refuses, citing that he can't help if it means abandoning his new family and the community, and that pisses Joel off. It's clear that the brothers had a tumultuous relationship in the years following the outbreak, and some scars still haven't healed. Tommy lightens his stance though when Joel helps protect the camp from a group of raiders, and after Ellie deduces what is going on, she runs away on horseback. Tommy and Joel give chase, which leads to a ranch tucked away in the woods. Joel and Ellie share a heated exchange, addressing an issue that has been building up for months now. Ellie is becoming closer to Joel and relies on him for protection and comfort, yet Joel is terrified to let Ellie into his world completely because of his past. Ellie is tired of feeling like a dejected piece of cargo that just gets passed from one person to the next, and is disgusted with Joel to see him doing the same thing after how far they've come. She feels powerless. Ellie treads thin ice by bringing up Sarah to Joel and explaining that she isn't the same person, and Joel gets ultra defensive. She reminds him though that he isn't the only one who has lost people, and Joel kind of rejects this notion. He's clearly delusional by the suppression of his emotion. Years upon years of not addressing his pain has led to an internal buildup where he's convinced himself that his pain is more impactful than anyone else's. But right as we're reaching the maximum tension, Tommy barges in to announce it's time for a combat section, and I always find it kind of strange how this cutscene and the other one before the raid have emotional moments that are just cut in by a combat section. I don't get it. It's like the most well-timed raiders you could have ever seen. The emotion reaches a pinnacle only to be put on the back burner, and it's almost laughable to a degree. Escaping the chaos, Joel has time to reflect on himself and what he said as the trio venture back to camp. We're not told what he's thinking, but it's clear he's had a change of heart. He opens himself up to caring for a child again and the potential for great harm that comes with it when he announces he will take Ellie to the Firefly's lab. The exchange between Joel and Ellie awakens something in Joel and forces him to confront himself. Perhaps he knows that abandoning Ellie isn't the right thing to do for her, for Tess, and even for himself. Tommy promises a safe haven for them to stay at, but Joel and Ellie push onward to Eastern Colorado University. At the college, Joel and Ellie uncover a sad reality. It's abandoned, and the Fireflies that they hope would be here have relocated to Salt Lake City, Utah. Before that, though, the pair must traverse the campus, and Joel is forced to weave in and out of labs and dorms to progress further. The campus is home to a lot of supplies littered all over the place, and it got me thinking about how this game handled its crafting system. Scavenging is one of the best parts of The Last of Us, because it's here where a lot of additional dialogue is thrown in to enhance the dynamic between characters. At the same time, you find just enough resources that you can craft things like nail bombs, molotovs, smoke bombs, melee weapons, shivs, and health packs that are all useful. On higher difficulties, these resources, along with ammo, are a lot more scarce, which puts added pressure on the player in stealth and combat sections. I just wanted to revisit the game, and so I'm playing on easy mode, casual I know, but it means I have a lot more resources available to me. Crafting things can be done at any moment, but it doesn't really pause the game, meaning there can be these frantic moments where you craft and use a medkit right when you're on the verge of dying. It adds a little extra tension and flair as you wait for Joel to finish constructing things. The best practice, though, is of course to make sure you're stocked up during downtimes, and part of that means scavenging. The crafting menu is really user-friendly, scavenging the wasteland allows for character development, and it just makes sense that the looting of abandoned buildings is something that would occur in this sort of setting, which I think makes this whole crafting and scavenging system a slam dunk. As Joel and Ellie attempt to escape a group of bandits, seriously, what is it with raiders in this game showing up right after cutscenes with the utmost timing? But anyway, right after that, Joel is brutally impaled after falling on a metal pipe. I remember the first time I saw this, I thought I had just failed the QTE, but no, this is bound to happen, and it makes me wince every single time I see it. After this, do-it-yourself Joel remains as macho as he can by trying to walk it off, and insisting Ellie doesn't try to help him, but it's clear he's circling the drain. And it's fascinating watching Ellie jump into this leadership role so quickly, as she clears out guards and guides Joel back to the horse. Just like in the city, she won't leave Joel to die, even if it means risking her own life. They're truly in it together, as you really feel that during this gruesome section. As the two make their escape, Joel passes out and falls off the horse, most likely due to the tremendous amount of blood loss he's experiencing. We cut to black, another season has ended, and winter has begun. The coldest season of the game is also its most memorable, not only because of the events that unfold, but mainly because you get a chance to play as Ellie through more than half of it. Joel's fate is left unanswered as the previous scene cuts to Ellie, out in the wilderness hunting rabbits and deer. She manages to track and kill a deer, but is startled by two men, one of whom is named David. Ellie offers to trade the men the deer for antibiotics, which gives us our first clear indicator that Joel is still alive. I like that they allow Joel's whereabouts to go unspoken to the player for just a little bit. It allows the tension to build up, as you're on the edge of your seat to figure out what happened to him. The other man goes back to camp and retrieves the medicine, and in the meantime, David and Ellie have to hold up in a wood-chopping plant against waves of infected that kind of come out of nowhere. I know there's a town surrounding this facility, but David and Ellie don't make any sort of major noise that would draw in the infected. Just like with the Tommy and the university sections, combat moments feel kind of shoehorned in at the most random times without a ton of explanation, but instead with a lot of convenience. Again, I'm hoping part 2 is able to blend this transition more naturally. Anyway, David is revealed to be the man who sent the goons to the university to get supplies who were dispatched by our characters. He allows Ellie to leave, but it's only a ploy in order to track her and Joel down the following morning. Getting back to a small town, we see Joel is still very much in bad shape as he fights off fever, infection, blood loss, and cold temperatures, but luckily the medicine seems to help him. It's clear his decision to stick with Ellie garnered a great deal of respect for him from the young girl, as she's spent weeks at this point nursing him back to health and finding all the food that they need to survive. When David's men do show up, she leads them astray by escaping on horseback until eventually she must sneak through and kill the would-be killers. Controlling Ellie is similar enough to Joel, but she's powered down enough that it's better to play her as more of a stealth character. Using stealth kills and the silent bow and arrow is your best bet to kill off foes, because she can't really take nearly as much damage as Joel, so firefights aren't advisable. Of course, I am playing on easy, so it's not that bad. Playing as Ellie is a nice change of pace from playing as Joel without changing up combat too drastically, and I think it was a smart decision and it's well done. Ellie is eventually captured by David and locked up in a cage, where she awakens to find that the entire camp is full of cannibals, and guess what? She's on the menu. Scummy David starts off rough when you find out he deceived Ellie in their first meeting, but his negative traits just keep piling up from then on. First, he tries to kill Joel and Ellie by bombarding their hideouts with men. Then we find out he's a cannibal who is justified eating people, and then he even makes a pass on 14-year-old Ellie. He's trying to save her life only to make her his, well, you know. It's disgusting, and it's horrible, and it gives the player plenty of reasons to hate this guy. He's easily the biggest antagonist of the game, and it's only natural to want him dead. It's smart, then, that this is the moment that Joel reawakens and begins his search for Ellie. We've spent time playing in her shoes with her weaker capabilities, but now we're back in Big Bad Joel's shoes. It's a power trip because your full arsenal and strength is brought back, which aligns perfectly for your craving of revenge against David for what he's done. Joel heads off into the winter tundra, and after killing off some henchmen, we get this torture scene where Joel brutally murders 2 of David's men after learning about his location. And The Last of Us was one of the first games that made me realize that just because we are controlling a character in a game, that doesn't explicitly make them a good person. We see things through Joel's perspective and his beliefs, which drives us to feel closer and more connected to him. And that makes watching him obliterate people like this kind of hard to swallow.
Fuck you, man. He told you what you wanted. I ain't telling you shit.
That's all right. I believe him.
No, wait!
We're forced to recognize as players that we've grown to like this person who has no reservations about killing just nearly anyone. This world has transformed the Joel we knew at the beginning of the game, and not in a good way. It's a powerful scene, and while Joel's morals aren't really put into question to us as players, since we know how shitty David and his men are, the fact remains that Joel doesn't know any of that at this point. He only knows that they have Ellie, and instead of just leaving them or killing them mercifully, he viciously takes their lives. We cut back to Ellie, who is able to save herself from death by revealing she's infected. David hesitates, and she escapes, leading to maybe the most frustrating sequence in the game. You have to reach the restaurant at the edge of town, but your vision is impaired from a blizzard, and you have next to no supplies or weaponry, and there are guards everywhere. It's one of those sections that I felt totally badass completing my first time through, but on subsequent playthroughs, I just want to rush through it. Reaching the cafe, David enters, and a showdown ensues between he and Ellie. The man has gone completely unhinged and lunges after Ellie in a barrage of bullets and machete swings. In order to get out of this alive, you have to sneak up and stab David 3 times, and it's one of the most video gamey sections of the entire experience. I mean, the man gets stabbed pretty deeply in the chest on multiple occasions, but he just kind of, walks it off. But really, the best part about this section is that leading up to the final hit, he will kind of go into this stealth mode, and it's terrifying to round a corner only to see the lunatic waiting for you. But eventually, you do incapacitate him, and we cut back to Joel. Joel kills off some goons and reaches the cafe, where we cut back to Ellie. David is about to do unspeakable things to Ellie as he stands over her, taunting her failure. But she's able to wiggle free just long enough to grab a machete and go off on the man. Like I said, this game does not shy away from brutality, but even the developers wouldn't let us see the whole picture here as Ellie unloads on David, clearly letting out all the hatred she has for this man and his sick, perverted mind. Joel arrives and stops her onslaught and comforts her in a way that only a father can. He calls her baby girl, and it's all we need to hear to show us that Joel's guard is down, and he is fully committed to Ellie in this moment. We pan to a shot of the bloody machete before cutting to spring. Here, we find Ellie at her quietest. At first, we may think it's a reaction to what has happened in winter, but after panning out, we see that the duo has arrived at their final stop, Salt Lake City, where the Fireflies await. Ellie's silence and disengaged nature throughout this section shows that she knows what's coming. She knows her death awaits and is ready to make that sacrifice for all of humanity. She's of course nervous about it though, but we can all tell it's true without her even ever having to say a word about it. Joel, on the other hand, is as chatty as he's ever been, telling her memories he has about playing his guitar and promising to teach her how to play once this is all said and done. Joel has let her into his world and has opened his heart to her. Ellie remains quite reserved though, even to the point that she doesn't hear our commands to lower a ladder down for us. And the only thing that snaps her from this mindset is seeing a beautiful sight of nature, a giraffe peacefully eating some leaves. It's a serene moment that touches the girl on a profound emotional level and allows her to come to peace with what she must do. Just like with much of the storytelling in this game, it's easy to infer most of the characters' emotions and thoughts through simple glances, smiles, and behaviors. They don't really ever have to say a word for us to understand them. It's a powerful symbol of what it means for us to connect as fellow humans. We're given a quiet moment where Joel and Ellie can watch the giraffes for as long as they see fit. They will continue to stare at the giraffes until you, the player, move Joel away from Ellie. It symbolically represents what's to come. Still, it's a beautiful moment shared between two people who have become very close. Joel contemplates turning around and going back to Tommy's, but Ellie knows they've come too far. She's accepted her fate and won't allow for everything that's happened to her be for naught. It's clear though that Joel doesn't understand what will happen to Ellie, and she's terrified to break the news to him. It's why she's been so quiet this far, but sharing this moment together allows her to find some peace. Joel's whole demeanor shift is characterized perfectly in this moment, when Ellie reveals she stole a picture of Joel and Sarah together from Tommy and gifts it to him at this moment. It's another reminder, she knows what's coming, and this may be her last chance to present Joel with this gift. It seems as good a time as ever considering the moment they've just shared together. And for Joel, it's the first time we've ever seen someone bring up Sarah without him shutting down the conversation and seeking to escape it. He's found comfort about the pain of his loss through this journey with Ellie, and he's at the happiest point of his life following the outbreak. He's able to accept the picture, and by doing so, he puts his guilt behind him. Unfortunately though, it will be a short-lived relief with what's about to occur. As we move into the underground tunnel leading to the hospital, we get our last gauntlet of infected, featuring clickers, runners, and 3 boomers. It's also our final chance to upgrade our weapons using the gears and tools we've found throughout the game. Upgrading our weaponry isn't as great as I would have hoped, as most of the boosts don't feel particularly useful outside of increasing the clip capacity for our guns. I mean, faster reload times can also be beneficial, but everything else is pretty hit or miss. For the most part, you don't really feel the benefits that the upgrades are supposed to be providing, so they end up feeling tacked on. You can also use supplements to increase various stats like total health, time to heal, and time to craft, but these fall into the same trappings as weapon advancements. It just hardly feels worth it to invest in some of these so-called upgrades, while some of them are supremely useful, like increased health. Really, there's just no real tough choices to make in the upgrade system, and I think that's what makes it the weakest component of the game. Anyway, after solving our final quote-unquote swimming puzzle, we reach a tunnel with rushing water in it where eventually Joel gets trapped and the duo are sucked underwater. Joel is barely able to scoop Ellie out of the water and begin CPR before suffocating himself. It's a terrifying feeling for us as players. We've come so far, it can't end here, and if it does, how will Joel ever bear the emotion of knowing he failed two daughters? But before he can revive her, an armed man knocks him out, and he awakes at Firefly HQ. Marlene awaits us there, and after hours and hours of not seeing her face, and hardly even hearing mentions of her, it's quite a shock to see she actually beat us to the destination. It seems like a miracle to her that the duo arrived and that Ellie is still alive. Joel is bluntly informed that Ellie is being prepped for surgery, a procedure that will take her life, but one that will probably save mankind. It's here where we see Joel at his most selfish. He wishes to deny humanity of this gift for his own personal reasons. Even though we feel Marlene is the antagonist here because we've come to love Joel and Ellie, she raises many logical points. She's known Ellie longer, and she acknowledges that she will have a lifetime of guilt, but doing so is the right decision for the good of the many. But Joel hasn't had time to process these rational thoughts. He's consumed by his emotion, unwilling to allow the Fireflies to kill Ellie.
I knew her since she was born. I promised your mother I would look after her.
Then why are you letting this happen?
Because this isn't about me, or even her. There is no other choice here.
Yeah, you keep telling yourself that bullshit.
Now that he's opened up his emotions to her, he is unable to bear the thought of going on without her and losing yet another daughter, as well as the person he's become the closest to in probably 20 years. The thing about love is that it isn't logical, and with that, Joel begins his tirade through the hospital, hell-bent on saving Ellie and getting the fuck out of there. Joel kills every trooper in his way as he rips and tears his way back to Ellie. Reaching the operating room, he kills 3 doctors who are just innocent people doing their job. One doctor turns the scalpel on you. He's waited for a moment like this for so long and will fight to the death before surrendering this opportunity to you. But he's defenseless. You dispatch all 3 and make a mad dash with Ellie for a way out. Descending an elevator, we come face to face with Marlene. She begs Joel to not go through with this. She presents him with the harsh truth. Ellie would want this. It's her way of giving back to all of those that she's lost. But Joel has gone too far now. He only knows that taking Ellie is the only way to avoid more agony, and so he kills Marlene in cold blood and escapes with the girl. Before we learn this though, we get a brief glimpse of Joel driving down the road, seemingly alone, until Ellie awakens, shocked that she's still alive. Joel lies and tells her that she wasn't going to be able to cure anyone and that the medical teams have stopped trying. She turns away from Joel. It's evident that the doubt of his words are already taking root in her mind. We jump forward a bit, where Ellie, quiet and reserved once again, makes her way towards Tommy's camp alongside of Joel. Joel goes on and on about how he used to hike with Sarah, and how he thinks Ellie and her would have been just such great of friends. And we as players feel a disconnect from Joel in this moment. He feels like a familiar stranger. A judgment has taken root in our minds now that we've been separated from controlling him. The two climb to the peak, and before they descend, we get the iconic moment. Ellie stops Joel and explains how she had a friend in Boston who was bit at the same time as her. This was a girl named Riley who she cared deeply about in a real and intimate way. They swore they'd go out together, but Ellie never turned. She tells Joel she's been waiting for her turn, and it still hasn't come. Joel offers what appears to be surface level advice. Find something to keep fighting for. But it's clear he means these words, it's how he justifies what he's done in saving Ellie. For the girl, though, the answer is bullshit. She demands Joel tell her the truth, and in the final moments, Joel lies, and Ellie simply replies with,
You keep finding something to fight for. Now, I know that's not what you want to hear right now.
Swear
but
to
it's-
me. Swear to me that everything that you've said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
Okay.
We cut to the credits, and The Last of Us is over. In its last moments, the greatest strength of the game makes itself known one last time: the writing. The restraint these writers had, and the trust that the team placed in the animators and the voice performances, is what truly allowed this game to shine. At no point are we directly told how our characters are feeling, yet we are able to not only pick up on the emotions, but to connect with them. We feel sorry for both of these characters by the end, but for different reasons. We pity Joel, but we kind of look down on him. We understand why he saved Ellie, and even with understanding how love affects our thought process, we still can't justify his actions. Yet, we can still sympathize with him. And then there's Ellie, a girl who has had her chance at redemption taken away from her by the man she's come to care for and respect the most. She will have no choice but to continue waiting for her moment. For years, it felt like a cliffhanger ending, but in retrospect, it was the perfect way to end this title. We fully understand these characters, and our hearts break for both of them. But now it's 2020, and soon The Last of Us Part 2 will be releasing. For years following this game's release, we dreamt of what the fallout would look like between Joel and Ellie, and now we're at the point that we will get to see it firsthand. I, for one, put my full faith in Naughty Dog on this one, and I think they will deliver us a worthy successor to this incredible title. I truly believe they won't let us down, and more than anything, I can't wait to see what happens next for Joel and Ellie. I don't want a part 3. I want a definitive ending for our duo this time around. One that grips me in the same way that this game's ending does, even 7 years after first experiencing it.